Hi everyone, I'm Nurse Laliz and I am a registered nurse and midwife. On this page, you can expect to see me providing health education content, health education on general medical conditions, and health education specifically relating to women's health. So I will be catering for young women, for pregnant women, for moms. I will be giving health education that's related to that group of people, more especially because I'm a midwife. And I will also be doing a bit of lifestyle content just to make things a bit interesting on this page. So that is the type of content you can expect to see from my page. So today, the video that I am doing today is directed to people who do not accept blood transfusions. More specifically, Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses do not accept blood transfusion. And this video will also cater to people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses, but they've made a personal decision to not accept any blood transfusions. So, why is it important for me to talk about this topic? I think it's very important for me to talk about this because blood is a very important component of our bodies. Our blood transports oxygen and nutrients throughout our whole body to our organs, ensuring that they are able to function properly. And our blood also takes away waste products and carbon dioxide from our organs to the outside of our body. So we cannot live without blood. Blood is very important for us to live and for us to survive. So when you are in a situation where your blood is low, it means that there is a problem. Like, that is a huge problem. And we need to have a good level of blood. Because in the case of an emergency, for example, if you get into a car accident and you lose a lot of blood, that's a problem. Or if you get into an accident and you lose blood at the scene of the accident, and then on top of that, you need a life-saving surgery, you'll need blood as well. And then in other cases, you might be needing a surgical operation to save your life. And for you to qualify for the surgical operation to be done, you might need to have a good amount of blood first before you can actually be considered to do that surgical operation. Let me make a few examples. Let's say you are a woman and you have fibroids, so you're bleeding too much every month. Those fibroids need to be removed. Or perhaps the fibroids are so terrible that you actually need to have your whole uterus removed. So in order for you to qualify for that surgery, you need to have a good amount of blood. Or let's say you are more elderly and you need a hip replacement surgery. You need to have enough blood to go into that surgery. What else? If you are pregnant and you are going to give birth via a cesarean section, you need a certain level of blood. And even if you're actually going to deliver naturally, you need to have good enough blood, because when you give birth, you're going to lose blood. So you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you already have low blood before you get to labor. And also when you're pregnant, you need to share your blood with your baby. So you need to have enough blood, basically. So it's very important that we have a good circulating amount of blood for these kind of things that I have just mentioned. Because if your blood is low and then you go through things that will take your blood even lower, then that's going to be a problem. So before you get to a situation where you actually lose blood and you might need a lot of blood for certain functions to be performed, then you need to ensure that we prepare for that kind of event. Okay, so that's why I'm actually doing this video. So now, what are the ways in which we can measure the blood that we have, right? So we can prepare ahead for emergencies and for surgical operations that you might need. So we measure your blood through something, by looking at something that is called your hemoglobin or your HB. So your HB is a protein in the red blood cells, and it's the protein that transports the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. So if you have a low HB, you have low red blood cells. So that gives us an idea of how much red blood cells you need, because the red blood cells are what's important to transport the oxygen and transport the carbon dioxide around. So when you have a low HB, you have a condition that's called anemia. And it depends on the level where your HB is at, and that level is different for men and women. So some sources, they say that your HB should be between, if you are a woman, your HB should be between 11.6 and 15, and if you are a man, your HB should be between 13.2 and 16.6. Other sources, they say that your HB needs to be, if you are a woman, between 12.3 and 15.3, and if you are a man, it needs to be between 14 and 17.5. So the different sources have different ranges, but I like to think of it this way. If your HB is between 12, 13 up until 15, 16, that's a good level to have your HB at. Especially if you're a woman. Let me focus more on women. If you're a woman, it's good to have an HB between 12 and 15. If you are a man, it's good to have an HB of between 13 and 16. Okay. When you have a good HB, it means that if you do get into an accident and you lose blood, or you get injured and you lose blood, you might lose blood, and even after losing blood, you might still be left with a good enough level of HB. But if you're already anemic, and let's say, for example, you have a HB that's at like 8 or 10, and then you get into an accident and you lose blood, if your HB is already at 10, it might go down to 7. And that's a dangerous level to have your HB, because if now you need a surgical operation, you probably need a blood transfusion. Or if you are already anemic and then you need surgery, let's say, for example, you get into an accident or you get an injury and you break a bone and you need to go for surgery to repair that fracture in your bone, and you have an HB of like 8, then that puts you at a dangerous situation, because for you to do that surgery, you will need blood. So that is why we need to prepare ahead before that situation where you will actually need blood. And the things that we can do now is to increase our blood in the ways that we can to prepare for that event of emergency. And actually, this comes from a Bible principle in the book of Proverbs 22 verse 3, where it says, "The shrewd one sees the danger and conceals himself, but the inexperienced one keeps right on going." So that's the principle that I want us to remember from this whole topic, that we need to prepare in advance for the situation where you might actually need blood, or that situation where you might lose blood. So in order for us to prepare, I'm going to have to first talk about the different types of anemia. Remember I said if you have a low HB, it means you have anemia. So, what are the different types of anemia? We need to know the different types of anemia so that we can be able to work on the different things that causes the anemia in the first place, right? Obviously, some other things we cannot control. We can't control everything, but some of the things we can actually control. So let's talk about the different types of anemias. So when we talk about anemia, we can classify it into different types. So some anemias are because of nutritional deficiencies, meaning that you're not getting the right nutrients in your diet to prevent the anemia. So the types of anemia that you have under your nutritional anemias, it's iron deficiency anemia. It's when you have vitamin deficiencies for vitamin B12 and folate, and your megaloblastic anemia, which means that you have big red blood cells that do not function properly, and that's because of folate deficiency. So those are your nutritional anemias. Then you also have anemias that are inherited. For example, your sickle cell anemia,